150 to 1 about Kentucky Hayden. Sorry, 20's Kentucky Hayden, and Anaruccio's 150 to 1. 250s bar those. And on the exchanges at the moment, trying to find a clear favourite, and they have. They found it in the shape of Royal Irish Hussar. Clear favourite on the exchanges, almost a point shorter than Calypto, and I think he'll go favourite on course soon. Royal Irish Hussar. Now, who's the leading trainer going into the final day? Ah, yes, Willie Mullins. 3 winners, 4 seconds and 2/3. John Joe O'Neill and David Pipe, they have chances today, and particularly David Pipe, I'd have thought. They're on 3, and Philip Hobbs has got 2 winners to his name, all the rest on 1. Jockey-wise, Ruby, 3 and 3, 3 wins, 3 seconds. Barry Geraghty's got 3 winners, and so has Tom Scudamore.
Right, so we're in the paddock for our first race of the last day. It's the JCB Triumph Hurdle. Let's have a look at these juveniles, shall we? I was hoping one was behind me. It is eventually. It's number 12. That is Plinth. Now, the cheek pieces are back on. He wore it on the flat. He, of course, is trained by Aidan O'Brien, who's got a renewed interest in jump racing lately. This horse did well to win a first time out over hurdles, but then last time the hurdles rather got in his way. I'm wondering whether a better surface, a sounder surface, will help him jump better, and also there's less accent on jumping in the closing stages of the Triumph, there being fewer hurdles in the closing stages of the new course compared to the old course. Maybe he might have a chance of hitting the frame, perhaps. Number 1 is Abyssal, who was a good winner at Fairy House last time, beating his stable companion, who also reopposes Adriana de Mott. So you can see there why Willie Mullins described him afterwards as a big, raw horse. He's not your typical Triumph Hurdle candidate, is he? He's not a sort of racy horse off the flat, but he's got to improve, probably, but he looks like he's got the latent physicality to be able to do it. There is number 8. And that is Guitar Pete. Now, he is a tremendously likeable horse, tough and consistent. He's won a Grade 2 beating Clare Cowan at Leopardstown, and a really good win in a Grade 1 beating Tiger Roll. He's second here on the course behind Royal Irish Hussar earlier on in the season, but he's put up better form since then, so his chance rests on that, and you couldn't have a horse with a bigger heart, really, I think, in the field. Number 2, let's take a look at him next. That's Actung. He is now the mount of Peter Buchanan, and he needs to improve hugely on anything he's done before. He's followed by number 3, that's Anaruccio, who was unraced on the flat and was 4th behind Raven's Tower on his sole start over hurdles. He might just lack a bit of experience. He's followed by number 16, Adriana de Mott, the other Willie Mullins runner, the only filly in the lineup. She was second to her BCL, and she was really closing down in the finish. She'd prior to that won at Punchestown. She too might be better on a sounder surface. She could well be a player, and of course she's got the filly's allowance. Passing us just now is Plinth again, so we wing our way round. Eventually we'll be rejoined by the rest of the field as well. Wide open race, you would think, and of course there's a couple of key horses, at least on the British side of things, who aren't here. Activial and La Rocha don't even run, and they would have some of the best form in this race. Number 5, let's talk about number 5. There's Broughton. He was a very good handicapper on the flat for Mark Johnston. His form didn't build in that way, but he was capable of throwing up a big performance. He's a little bit on his toes. He's got to prove that he's got the stamina for 2 miles and 1 furlongs at a Triumph level, but he's done well so far over hurdles. He just edged a little bit to his left under pressure when he made his debut, but admittedly that was in a Grade 2, so it was quite a tough ask on his first start. Number 6, he is just here. That is Calypto, and he's been improving over hurdles. He's twice won at Newbury. Perhaps Activial and Chakala took each other on a bit too much when he beat Activial at Newbury first time around, but maybe I'm being unfair to him. After that, he won probably as well as he should do next time out at Newbury, and he comes here with good form claims. Cherry Tiger here is on his toes, and he would seem to be out of his depth. He's followed by number 13, Royal Irish Hussar, whose chance really rests on his course form. He beat Guitar Pete here in November. That was on the old course, but a month later he disappointed behind Fox Norton at Doncaster. We haven't seen him since then. Will the fast ground bring him back to life? And there is number 9, Kentucky Hayden, just there. And Kentucky Hayden is still improving. Second to La Rocha, the horse I just mentioned, who won the finale, and second over the course and distance last time, beaten 10 lengths. Needs to find a little bit of improvement, but is a tough horse, and tough and genuine. There's Plinth once more. Again, we'll give it a little break and wait for the others to come round. The jockeys are just coming into the paddock at this stage and beginning to go over to connections. I do think it's a wide open race, and Calypto, of course, will be providing Paul Nicholls with his first winner this week, and they'll be really wanting that, I think. Sad retirement for Big Bucks yesterday, of course, but he's gone so close. The horses are running pretty well. Right. Who haven't we seen? We've talked about number 1 and 5. Number 14, Rutherglen's important. Rutherglen, one of 2 for John Quinn, and this horse is unbeaten in 3 hurdle starts. He beat Thorpe by 6 lengths last time, and he was a good horse on the flat, stayed up to 2 miles. He's followed by Lindenhurst, who was second behind Guitar Pete at Listowel, and then beat him at Gowan Park, making all. He'll probably be suited by this left-handed track. We've done the horses that are immediately behind. Done Tiger Roll. I'm looking for Pearl Castle. There he is, number 11. Pearl Castle is the stable companion of John Quinn's Rutherglen. And Pearl Castle is improving over hurdles. Won both of his starts at Doncaster, beat Zamoyski last time out, and did really well actually, because he didn't get the clearest of runs to make his challenge on that day. And I think he's toughened from the flat. He's the kind of horse that would traditionally do well in this race. But there's several sort of non-traditional horses in this. So you will have heard people like Nick Williams talking about how horses that have got extensive experience on the flat are best positioned in the Triumph. But maybe it's taking on a different character as the years go on, with the Fred Winter providing an option perhaps for those horses. That's a selection of the horses then for our first race here, the JCB Triumph.
And jockeys are getting mounted and they're heading out onto the course for the opening contest. That is the aerial scene. Wow, what a scene. The sun shining and a beautiful day. What a contrast to the weather that we've had over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so. Great day for the Gold Cup and for the Triumph Hurdle. Royal Irish Hussar is now favourite. It's 11-2. 6-1 Calypto, who's now being backed again on the exchanges. Broughton 7s Guitar Pete, Rutherglen 10s, Pearl Castle 11s about Tiger Roll, Abyssal 12s Plinth, it's 14s and bigger. The rest, Royal Irish Hussar just clinging on to favouritism ahead of Calypto. They're joint favourites on the exchanges. Back to Lydia.
And with Gordon Elliott, he's got Tiger Roll, who was a good second last time out behind Guitar Pete. Can you see yourself turning around that form?
Yes, Guitar Pete's got a lot of experience, and we lack it. It's only our third run over hurdles, but I think our horse has improved since Leopardstown. We've had him wait at school and hurdle and done a good bit of schooling with him, but he does lack experience. Unlike a lot of these horses, he hasn't run the flat, but he's definitely come on from Leopardstown. Whether he's good enough to win it or not, I don't know, but he's in good form.
And will the ground help him?
I think he liked the ground. He's in good form. We could be happy he travelled over well and taken the whole great.
Great. And in the race, where do you hope to see him positioned?
Listen, I told David, just get a nice pause. You don't get him knocked around. If he jumps him off there 6th or 7th, and if he's good enough, be having a go going to the last, because he would be green if he got to the front, so we don't want to be there too soon. Looking
over your compatriots, the Irish form, who do you see as the strongest candidate?
I think Aidan O'Brien's horse. If you look at his last one, Leopardstown, he kicked hurdles out of the ground, and he's still in his third leg. So if his jumping improves today with cheek pieces on him, he just could be the dark horse in the race.
Thank you very much for your thoughts and very best of luck.
Cheers, thanks.
Thanks.
Number 5 is on the track for the JCB Triumph. Steve Mellish is with me, and we see Steve Calypto on the way down. Darryl Jacob and Paul Nicholls looking for that elusive first winner this week. Calypto, although Angus was saying he is just shortening up on the exchanges now, has been suspiciously easy to back on course.
Well, it's a hard one, despite winning his last 2 races on, to feel confident about. He's won 2 races at Newbury, both of them pretty well. The last one, I really don't think the piece of form is worth very much, but he overcame bad ground to win it. First one, you could take either way. You beat Actival, you just use him as your line, you'll say that's a good bit of form. But Jakala, who came third, was beaten the mile next time out, and Dawalan, was well beaten this week in the Fred Winter. So it's mixed. He's also never encountered ground as sound as this. Now that might suit him. That's going to be a theme, I'm afraid, about loads of horses I mentioned here. The worry about this race, there are so many horses who we don't know if they'll go on the ground, and he's one of them.
Royal Irish Hussar, who is now vying for favouritism with Calypto at 11-2, was doing his winning back in the autumn before the rains came. He won the Wensleydale at Wetherby. He beat Guitar Pete and he brushed him aside quite readily.
Absolutely.
But then met with defeat at the hands of Fox Norton at Doncaster before Christmas.
When the ground shouldn't have, he likes good ground. He is the opposite of what I was saying. But when he got beat the next time, when Broughton was 16 lengths ahead of him in second, the ground was still pretty good. So I don't know what the reason for that defeat was. Go back to his form previously where he beat Guitar Pete. That's why he's towards the head of the market. You can see that he's become popular since the ground has dried up, and on that piece of form, that's probably as good a piece of form as there is on offer. But you have got to forgive a moderate run, very moderate run last time out.
Nicky Henderson doubly represented in his quest for a 6th JCB Triumph Hurdle. He's also responsible for the 20-1 chance at Kentucky Hyde. You mentioned Broughton there, well ahead of Royal Irish Hussar, as you said, in the Doncaster race.
But that was a grade 2 on his hurdle debut, and he ran really well, didn't get beat far, and then he backed it up next time out with a good win at Musselburgh. And the horse he beat there, Claricombe, was in front when falling 2 out and injuring Brian Cooper in the Fred Winter. So he was in the process of giving the form some sort of boost. We know plenty about him from the flat. He was a pretty decent middle distance performer, up to 1.5 miles. A lot of his form was a bit shorter. My one doubt about him, I think he's got a really good chance. I think he'll travel really well. Is just wonder whether this will stretch him a little bit. It's Musselburgh and Doncaster these days over hurdles is not a stiff track. It's just a question of whether his stamina lasts out. I expect him to travel well, and if he does last out, he's a serious player, but stamina a slight issue for me.
We heard from Gordon Elliott a few moments ago. Can we perhaps discuss the Irish challenge, because they went a long time between drinks before a devastating winner of the race 12 months ago in the shape of the ill-fated Our Connor. What chance this year?
Well, the best form of the Irish, I guess, was Guitar Pete winning in Leopardstown. Leopardstown last time out. We thought we knew plenty about him. He was thumped by Royal Irish Hussar here. Now, maybe he's improved. I just get the overall form. Some of that form hasn't worked out. Ivor Grucci, for example, who was in 4th place that day, was well beaten in the Fred Winter. I'm not certain that the form the Irish horses show is up, is that hot. Now, again, most of them have been battling the whole time in very soft ground, so it might be that one of them puts up an improved performance. Plinth, for example, has got decent form on the flat. Maybe he'll be a different animal meeting better ground, but it's a worry. I don't think as a bunch, and I'm sort of writing them all off, and I don't think as a bunch their form is anything special.
John Quinn is doubly represented as he pursues a 2nd Triumph Hurdle win. He's got the dual Doncaster winner Pearl Castle, who is a point bigger than stablemate Rutherglen.
Rutherglen got no doubt about stamina. He's won 4 in a row if you include an all-weather race on the flat. His platform isn't brilliant, but he's pretty tough, and he's taken really well to hurdles, and he will get home, and I can see the case for. Visually, I was more impressed with Pearl Castle. I thought when he won at Doncaster, and the form isn't, tremendous, but on his 2nd ever hurdle start, he was very impressive. And I thought he overcame a few things going wrong next time out. He made a mistake 3 out. He got embroiled in a bit of, sort of bumping and boring, and he ultimately did well to land the odds, I think. And I think he could run all right on this sort of ground.
A final line to summarise, Steve, on the JCB Triumph Hurdle.
Genuinely think it's really, really difficult, as in lots of unproved horses. I've got a hunch that Pearl Castle might run okay, but it's no more than a hunch.
Runners being sent way back from the tape, but they turn and prepare to come in for the traditional opener at a Gold Cup Day, the JCB Triumph Hurdle. One final turn for Achtung out the back. Now the mount of Peter Buchanan. And a final check of the girths for the James Best mount, Amaruccio, of Paul Webber's, who's just had the one start so far, and that came in a Warwick, a novice who said he's just out of shot, Amaruccio, away to the left, but they're readjusting the girths and tightening it up a notch or two as well. And there is the aforementioned Amaruccio, who, not unlike 1 or 2 of these on what has turned out to be a beautifully, pleasantly warm spring afternoon, Steve, has got a little bit warm. Yeah, absolutely. But he's not a bad looking horse, actually. I mean, form clearly needs enormous improvement. It wasn't a bad looking field, just that briefly. Some of them, they're not all just flashy ex-flat runners. Kentucky Hyden's a chasing type, but we both all like the mare, Adriana de Mott's, as an animal. She's quite a lengthy, quite tall horse. You wouldn't pick her out as a mare particularly, and I thought Tiger Roll was a nice looking horse.
And they're off. And passing through the tapes, Royal Irish Hussar was forced a little wide. A bit of schmozzle as they race towards the first, with Abyssial amongst those showing up with Plinth that they arrive at the first flight of hurdles. The back marker over it is Achtung. Cherry Tiger's taking a keen hold towards the rear of the field. So on this longish run towards the 2nd, It is out in front Abyssial, who leads. From Guitar Pete in second, Plinth and Kentucky Hayden in company with Calypto make up the chasing wave. Away to the left-hand side is Royal Irish Hussar, who races on the outside of Tiger Roll. Midfield early on for Lindenhurst in company with the John Quinn pair, Pearl Castle and Ruther Glen just about side by side. Adriana de Mott held up, as is Broughton, Black Jacket towards the inside. Out wider, Cherry Tiger is taking a keen hold, then Achtung and Amoruccio towards the rear of the field, as Abyssial leads them towards the second, dives and takes a heavy fall. Abyssial is out, and we've also had Adriana de Mott brought down. So the Willie Mullins one falls and brings down the other one. Pleased to say that sitting up is Ruby Walsh. That was a horrible fall. Paul Townend is up okay. Ruby just being attended to and has got to his feet. Royal Irish Hussar leads the turn away from Kentucky Hayden and Plinth. They are the front trio. Back in fourth place towards the inside is Pearl Castle. The two loose horses gallop away riderless up the winning line. Guitar Pete races in fifth place, just ahead of Ruther Glen. Out a little wider at this stage as they head towards the next is Tiger Roll. Calypto is in midfield after that little incident and jumped up well. A slight mistake there by Achtung. Broughton is still held up towards the rear of the field. Lindenhurst was one that has lost the position. Not sure whether that was also one that may have got impeded. So Plinth, Kentucky Hayden stretch over the next from Guitar Pete, and up on the outside Royal Irish Hussar. Calypto tracks them in company as well with Tiger Roll. Up the inside, Pearl Castle from Ruther Glen coming next ahead of Amoruccio as they step over that. Royal Irish Hussar made a mistake up on the outside, which just knocked him back off the front rank for a moment or two, and Achtung and Cherry Tiger, the outsiders, are both struggling at the back. Broughton had a coming together there on the inside round that bend with Lindenhurst having been short of room as they race on towards the next. It's Plinth with Kentucky Hayden, Guitar Pete and Royal Irish Hussar. Calypto travelling strongly on their heels is in fifth place as they rise over the next flight of hurdles. Also travelling well is Tiger Roll at this stage, just ahead of Ruther Glen. Pearl Castle's rather lost the position, has been passed now by Broughton, who improves, and these little groups still tightly clustered as they make their journey downhill. So 3/4 of a mile to travel, just 2 flights of hurdles to take. Plinth in the hoop colours on the rails, Kentucky Hayden the two-tone green, Guitar Pete, and then Royal Irish Hussar. Calypto tracks them in company with Tiger Roll. Those two race 5th and 6th ahead of Amoruccio. Behind these, Broughton is creeping into contention. The Black Jacket ahead of Ruther Glen. Then behind these, Lindenhurst, and then Pearl Castle as they make their way down towards the second last. And it's Guitar Pete, the yellow sleeves, who may just pick up in front with Kentucky Hayden. They're over. Calypto trying to improve in company with Tiger Roll. Back in 5th place, Plinth has given his all, so has Royal Irish Hussar. The front quartet getting away, Broughton trying to breach the gap. Kentucky Hayden back in 3rd place. Calypto's rider looking a little bit unbalanced in the saddle. He's lost an iron, which is making things difficult on Calypto as they go down to the last. It's Guitar Pete, Kentucky Hayden coming there strongly. Tiger Roll, rodeo style for Calypto in 4th place, and he's having to be switched, and it's now Tiger Roll coming there strongly for Davy Russell to come through and lead at the last in the JCB Triumph Hurdle. Tiger Roll produced to lead, a big leap. Kentucky Hayden over in 2nd place, then back in 3rd is Guitar Pete. Up the near side rail, it's Tiger Roll, who's 2 lengths clear. Kentucky Hayden is very tired indeed, and it's Tiger Roll driven out who will win the Triumph for Gordon Elliott, Davy Russell and Jigginstown start. In 2nd, Kentucky Hayden. A 3rd, Guitar Pete. Calypto finishes his rider without his irons in 4th place. Then Ruther Glen and Royal Irish Hussar in 6th.
The Tiger roars in the JCB Triumph Hurdle. The purchase from Nigel Hawk's yard. Tiger Roll, who chased home Guitar Pete in the Spring Juvenile Hurdle at Leopardstown last time, reverses that form. It's a 1-3 for Irish train runners. They split by the Nicky Henderson trained Kentucky Hayden. Gordon Elliott is in the winner's enclosure at this year's Cheltenham Festival. It's one for Michael O'Leary and the Jigginstown House stud. How important will that prove to be as we move towards the Gold Cup? And it's an 11th festival, a success for Davy Russell in a race not short on drama or excitement, and a rodeo act from Jacob, and some real drama at the second flight. Gasps from the assembled throngs as on the big screen they see a replay of Ruby Walsh's tumbling fall, and he looked in a degree of pain, unsurprisingly, holding his right arm as he crawled under the rails away from Abyssial's crunching fall at the second fly. Now, coming downhill towards 2 out, keep an eye on Daryl Jacob on the Royal Blue and Calypto. He's looking down at that stage. Something has gone. Something on the tack has already gone before 2 out, and he ends up without any irons at all. And he deserves a medal, not only for keeping the partnership intact, but for ultimately, Steve, managing to stay on board and finish 4th.
Yeah, I mean, very hard to argue that he wouldn't at least have bustled up the winner. He was going, and they were the two. The winner and him were the ones who noticeably from the run, quite long run from 3 out to 2 out, were really going.